Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. Lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's very special live stream. And we're very honored to be being involved in basically the emancipation and declaration of the emancipation of the Boervolk in South Africa from the shackles of the illegally constituted ANC government. Now, the move to declare the Boervolk independent from the craziness that is traditional African politics was summed up earlier today when the Pan-African Congress was disrupted by a shouting match when it came to voting in the new president. I'll show you just a few seconds of that shambles that follows African politics everywhere. Let's have a look at that.
Ok. Si Afrique du Sud veut plus recevoir le Parlement.
If South Africa is no longer willing to host the parliament, we will choose another headquarters because we are not safe here. Our security is at risk here.
Point of order, Chairperson. The point of order is that that lone voice there.
Okay, I think you get the message. This happened today at the Pan-African Congress. Absolutely crazy. Right, let's get a bit of sanity back into the live stream, shall we? Tonight, Oom Jan, David van der Berg, BT, also known as Brother Thomas, and Marius Roos from the ZARB are joining us via Zoom. Please subscribe on Loving Life on YouTube and register with Loving Life to be kept informed. Now, lovinglifetv.com is our new platform. Okay, I'm going to get the guys on. Here we go.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hi, guys. Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Scott is so. Good evening, Scott.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, well, thank you very much. And yourself?
Excellent, David. Excellent. Now, okay, if you sit back, I see your full face. When you come forward, I lose your chin. Okay, I'm just letting you know. Hi, Marius. Good to see you here.
Hi, good evening, Scott.
And hi, BT. BT's got
Good
his
evening,
mic.
Scott. Good evening.
So we all set, are we? And Oom Jan is on WhatsApp, is he? On the mobile?
Yes, Scott, I'm on the WhatsApp. application? Because I see you couldn't reach me on a Skype.
Yeah. Oh, well, we can hear you perfectly, so that's great, Jan. Now, Jan, you're the...
Then it's next time. The only thing I want to ask tonight is a favor. You know, I am the minority. The majority here is English-speaking persons, and I would like to address my own people in my own tongue, the Boer tongue.
Absolutely, you can.
Possible?
Absolutely perfect. That's not a problem, Jan.
Thanks a million, Scott. I appreciate it. That's good news.
That's not a problem at all. Now, Jan, I was going to actually address the first question to you. If you can just answer this one in English, because it's for the benefit of the people who are watching from overseas. Can you give just a brief background to the origins of the Boer folk?
All right, thank you, Scott. I will try. I have no preparations for it. I will talk by heart. But as you can see, I'm in the minority here, and these people is still practicing what they call it. They call it democracy. I think it's democracy.
Yeah, I just showed a short clip of the Pan-African Congress today, the chaos that happened there. But Jan, if you want to tell us how the Boer folk actually arrived in South Africa, a bit of that background, so people know where this community came from.
Yes, Scott, that's a little bit a problem, because we went through two millenniums, which is past, which was not a good millenniums for our white race. You will probably know the hunting of our people in Europe and all over, and that time more or less all the tribes in Europe to the north were Germanic. To the south around the Mediterranean, it was a Roman Empire. The Roman Empire tried many times to invade Germanica, but they failed most of the times. And this is for the spirit which we have, the spirit for freedom. This freedom-driven spirit of the Germanic people carry them way around the earth. And as we go from the dark ages to through to the ages here in the 15th century, 16th century, people start moving out of Europe. It was caused by the 80 Years' War and the 30 Years' War, which took place on German soil, in which Germany was totally in chaos. Everything was wiped out. It was more or less the same situation that we experienced during 1899, 1902 year with the Boervolk, but there was powers behind it, as always, the occult powers which you don't see and which you find out later if you do research in history. But mainly what happened in those time, there was the discovery of America, and they found gold with the Incas, and the greed of the Roman Empire in those days was controlled by the popes. The Pope was in charge, and as you know, he is a vicious person in those days, and they want to populate America to see where is the source of all the gold, and therefore they created the 80 Years' War and the 30 Years' War, so that people have nothing left, and then it's easy to move to another country. During that time, there was also the witch hunt on women, of which was capable and served the population with their medical knowledge. And this all was prepared for the people to drive them out of Europe. In those days, the Cape was discovered, and Jan van Riebeeck was young. He was complaining about the shipmen which were with him, that they was totally incapable of producing any kind of vegetables or fruit or grain. They must look in Europe for persons which have the ability in them to do it. And there was lots of people who want to come here, but the company and the government of the Netherlands wasn't prepared to send much more than the original so-called 3 burgers that came to the Cape. Now we must just have a discussion about this point. What happened actually was that these people don't want to come here because they have enough of all the bloodshed and everything they suffer in Europe, and the witch hunting, by which they put conditions forward to the East Indian Company that they want to be free of the Netherlands rule. They want to be free of the East Indian Company and free of religion, because the religion was the main prosecutor in those times of the woman of the witch hunt. So this is the origin of what they call 3 burgers. They came here as free men, free from the Dutch law, free from the East Indian Company law, with other words, the Admiralty law, and also free from the paper law or canon law, as they call it. And that can give them the name 3 burgers. Now, a burger means he's the owner of the land. So these people came here before they landed. They was already given the right as the proper owners of this country. And that was the condition set up. Now, when they land in the Cape, the administration there was handled by the East Indian Company servants, and they form a type of government over our people. And then constantly they move the borders that they have, and our people said, no, we are free burghers, we are sovereign people, we came here to be free. And then they just crack again over the border and stay on the other side, and they start getting the name of track boers. Farmers, they're constantly on the move. So they carry on up to where they get to the borders, and then they call them grensboere, border boers. And eventually this East Indian Company was suffering bankruptcy, and French wars that was on its way, and England stepped in 1795, and they controlled it here, and in 1803 they gave it back to the Dutch people. In 1806, 3 years later, they claimed it, that they have a lot of cost during that period, and they take it again, and they come back with all their religious warlike thinking, or invasion of lands, where they came with missionaries. Missionaries must go to all the other peoples, especially to the black peoples, and stir them up, and learn them to some tricks, and even give them firearms and everything. And the life at the eastern border was unbearable, and English doesn't want to protect these farmers. And eventually they decided to track. And when they track, when they get clear that this farmers is going to move away, they sent out a person. They said he was a scientist with the surname Smith, all the missionary stations in black tribal areas with the message where 1 or 2 or 3 wagons move around. Don't attack them. They will be missionaries or British travelers or merchants. But where there was bigger tracks, organized tracks with animals and everything, attack them and wipe them all out. And on this stage, the church was working with the administrator of Britain in the Cape, and that's why we have the black attacks like those we have experienced along the Vaal River and the attack of the Gam. This is all planned by the British and by the church. Again, we can see that the church was our enemy, and so the life carried on. And eventually, we managed to get our sovereignty with the Sun-Privy Convention and the Bloemfontein Convention, or a convention, as I said. And we were again sovereign people under our own natural law. But then came the story that there was diamonds in the Western.
Yeah. Now, okay. Now that's great, Jan. Look, that gives us a good background into how the Boers actually originated in Europe and came into South Africa and were basically chased around and persecuted from the very start, which is the history. They've been chased around and persecuted and has stuff stolen from them right through their history in South Africa. And basically, the Boer Nation now is full. They've had enough, and they're saying, we're going to now be free people. Am I correct in suggesting that?
Yes, Scott, what you mentioned there, we have enough. Let me say, we have enough.
Yeah.
And enough is enough.
Yeah.
Because since the Anglo-Boer War, we were deprived of our sovereignty. The Treaty of Vereniging, because we didn't lose the war, we came to terms in a peace treaty.
Right. Okay.
We pushing out of the way, and they started to organize the Union of South Africa, in which we were a minority under the Cape Dutch and the British population in Natal and also in the Cape. We were a minority, and according to the democracy, the majority is always right. The minority is never right.
So what you're saying to us, Jan, is that what you're saying to us, Jan, is that the cultural identity of the Boer people was trampled on by the so-called democracy. I'm going to just turn to David now. David, would you like to tell us how you got to this point where you've now are going to be declaring the emancipation by the Boervolk in South Africa?
Yes, thank you, Scott. This process, as I mentioned, I think in the last program, it actually started during the first lockdown we had in May last year, and it's taken quite a bit of work, especially from BP side, assisting us and getting us to a point whereby the 5th of February we actually submitted our documentation internationally to declare our republics. Yes, and so there has been emancipated people or Boervolk happening systematically ever since the lockdown. Marius has done good work there in terms of getting groups of people together to emancipate. So we're standing strong at the moment. We've got groups of 700 people that are standing by to emancipate. We've got our website up and running, and yes, it's on the go.
Fantastic. Now, just so people who are watching know your relative roles in the ZARB, BT, or Brother Thomas, is the head of the South African General Assembly, I believe. You, David, are the record keeper for the Volkshof. Marius Roos is the sheriff of the Volkshof. Now, the Volkshof is, for those who don't know Afrikaans, is the People's Court. And then Jan is the justice of the Volkshof. Am I correct in that?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, let's talk about what the key elements within this declaration are. Before I do that, Marius, is there something you'd like to say to people just by way of introduction to this evening?
Yes, I would like to do that, but can I just quickly do that in Afrikaans, please?
Please do. Yeah, Afrikaans is fine.
Vir al die boervolk daar buite wat vanaand kyk en wat nog die program hierna gaan kyk, onthou, eendrag maak mag. As ons nie saam gaan staan nie, dan gaan hierdie kabalregering ons breek. Dit is wat met ons gaan gebeur. So al wat ek vir julle vra, die boervolk daar buite, staan saam, staan sterk, eendrag maak mag. Asseblief. Dankie.
Okay, fantastic. Now, before I go across to BT, I just want to address, we've got about 300 people watching the live stream at the moment, and it's growing very nicely. I see on our lovinglifetv.com live stream, we've got about 40 guests who are watching. I would appeal to them after this live stream to go to the top of the page where you're watching this, click on the home button, the link, and please register on lovinglifetv.com, because our focus on this channel is very much along the lines of what we're talking about today. And that's the emancipation of groups like the Boers in South Africa, so they can get away from the madness that's happening in that country. Okay, BT, is there something you'd like to say before we get started on the key elements of this declaration?
Yes, Scott, just a quick background. You know, globally, there's been an awakening of the people to their to modern day slavery, you know, in all its different forms. And so over the last 30 years, there have been investigations by rural activists as to what rights are and what law really is. And when you break it down into its simplest form, then you realize that there are certain laws around the world, and each law occupies a specific jurisdiction. And what we are calling law right now globally is actually just commerce between corporations and societies and so forth. And it's fictional law. It's commerce between legal fictions. If you ask me what the Republic of South Africa is, it's really just a piece of paper. And we have pieces of paper governing real people, their real property, and their real lands, and they are, you know, really suffering. So the common law basically is, if there's any dispute into law, you've got to go back to the original. So
right,
basically bringing the common law back, updating the common law from the 1800s and early 1900s, and updating it so that it's on par with modern society. So there are citations even in our legal system whereby it states that when the common law courts are up and running, then the admiralty courts must restrict themselves to commerce between corporations. Right. So, because the people have been asleep, they have assumed and presumed jurisdiction that they actually have no jurisdiction over, and we are just there to set the record straight.
Right.
On top of that, since 1994, that our history was the Defiance Campaign from the 50s, and then the Freedom Charter, which was the will of the people, and then all these communities came together and participated in what was called the Reconstruction and Development Policy Framework. And it clearly states that we were supposed to develop common law and customary law courts. It states clearly scrapping the divided bar and putting the power of lawmaking back into the hands of the people.
Right.
The two issues that the world faces is if we put the power of banking and the power of lawmaking back into the hands of the people, then we have won. Then no cabal can have control over us anymore. So this is what people all around the world are involved in, and in growing numbers, is re-establishing jurisdiction. So we are occupying reality, we are occupying the land jurisdiction, the law of the land. We're supposed to have a republican form of government. And in that form of government, the people are sovereign, and a state is just a legal fiction.
Right.
And it has no parity with the tangible, and therefore it cannot concern itself with anything real. So the government can make no decision regarding land. It can make no decision regarding your property, your buildings, your tenements, your offspring, or your children. This is all semantic deceit under the color of law. And it's time that we establish the truth, because even in the bar legal system, the first thing is that without which not is to establish the truth. And the truth is that what we think of as law is not law, it's the commercial rules of private corporations, and they are operating in foreign jurisdictions. And the second issue is that we have natural and unalienable rights that belong to us, like our fingers belong to our hands, and nobody can take it away from us without our consent. And we are saying not consenting to this deceit and fraud anymore, because fraud vitiates a contract, and we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt all the frauds that this current legal system is involved in, and it's time for it to stop.
Right. Now, BT, you're an expert in common law, and one of the things I just want to share with people watching, and you can correct me if I've got this wrong, but the way I understand it is that, like other countries, South Africa is actually registered not as a country, but as a corporation on Wall Street. And the actual directors of that corporation are the ambassador's building, or that where the ambassador home is for South Africa, which is in the District of Columbia, which is in Washington, D.C. And it's in an area which is basically controlled. This area where the embassy is for South Africa in the US is actually on a piece of land that's controlled by the Rothschilds. And the actual corporation of South Africa is why, for example, if you look at today with the lockdown, everybody around the world does the same thing, because you haven't got an independent country. You've got your orders and instructions coming from a central point. Now, I might have made that very, very simple, but do you just want to respond to what I've just said, BT?
Yes, you're 100% correct. Just to put it simply out there, right now, there's absolutely no country in the Western world that has a lawful government. All government offices right now, all lawful government offices are vacant. What we think of as government, these are merely corporations, and they are all sub-corporations of one big umbrella corporations. and there's been a process of revenuing. So these corporations, their business is in providing services. They are corporate services providers. And the constitutions of countries, the modern constitutions, are merely the charters for how these corporations must act when providing us with services. But now these corporations are actually working for foreign private shareholders, and their business is to profit for the shareholders. So what they have been doing is they have slowly started assimilating our public assets. So in a republic, the people are the shareholders, and of all the public assets, public buildings, all the services, your traffic departments, your municipalities, the court buildings, everything. But now private corporations have claimed those assets while we are asleep and have corporatized it all. So it's no longer a public department which is there to provide services, and it's not a profit off of the people. For example, our traffic department is now called Road Traffic Management Corporation. And these people didn't even pay 1 penny for all the public assets that they've inherited. And this has happened globally.
Yeah. Now,
So Republic, sorry, just to finish. So Republic of South Africa is a subsidiary, it's a subdivision of the United States of America, which is now a subsidiary of the UN IMF. And it the whole paper trail goes back to the British Crown and the Temple Crown and Vatican as the principles of this entire global fraud and banking Ponzi scheme, you know.
Right. And the great deception is that when you've got Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum, which are basically the front for this cabal based in Wall Street, when you got him saying there's going to be a great reset and there's going to be a global government and there's going to be one financial system, and you will own nothing, but you will be happy. What they're actually saying in effect is that they're just going to formalize what's already in place. And this is where your declaration comes into play, because you are, as a Boervolk, saying, we're not part of this. We want to be totally independent. Am I correct in that, David?
You're 100% correct, Scott. This game of chess has come to an end. We're in checkmate. There's no more moves. The end of this game is the end of the game. It was a game made up by them and played for 2,000 years. And we've realized now that this is the end and we need to start our own game.
Right. Now, Young, you're probably the best person to answer this question. And what I'd like you to do, and do it in Afrikaans, please, if you prefer. Tell us about the heritage of the Boer people and the nation. Just talk in your own time.
Yes, I must talk about our heritage. Our heritage, as I mentioned previously, came out of Europe. Our language came out of Europe. It's Boer Teutonic, not Afrikaans as people know it today, because it isn't an African language. It's a European language which came out of the Teutonic people. So that's the one thing. Our whole heritage can I describe in the word: freedom is our right. Sovereignty is our belief in nature, because that contribution is in our genes, and we can't go without it. We were deprived from it, and in these days, we want to be free again. As that one old man, Senior van Rensburg, I hear you refer to him once again, said, we will go into a crucible. Now, the crucible is actually a long time already on its way, right down.
Okay, I think we've lost Oom Jan there, David.
God, sorry about that. Verskoon my Jan, ons het ek het per ongeluk afgeskakel. As al terug gaan met 'n klein bietjie asseblief. Oor die crucible.
Yes, instead we are in the crucible. Now this crucible is already with us for a long time. Since the days in Europe, which I referred to previously, during the 80 Years' War, the 30 Years' War that was played also in Europe. So this crucible actually continued on to the Boer republics. The only time we have a little bit a break was between 1854 in 1899, not even to 1899, because in 1877 we have the annexation of Transvaal, not a free state. The free state doesn't participate in that piece of history, and we regained our sovereignty in 1881 after the Battle of Mayuga. But with an neglectance from Piet Joubert, which gives the British the chance to rethink their situation. They came up with the serenity in which they tried to keep us under their thumb. And then the Jameson raid came, which we was able to put down, and after that they were constantly for a war, and that's why Alfred Milner was sent here with the knowledge that he must create a war by all means, and since then we are under this control after 1902, and it happened on the 31st of May, the same day as we have today. And we carry on up to 1910, in which they, without our concern, was the story that they re-registered us as Afrikaners without our knowledge, without our concern, illegally, and we were registered as property of the Crown. And so it carried on, and that will also happen on the 31st of May. And then in 1961, they bypassed the UN resolution 1514 of 14 December 1960 by declaring us a republic, which was not a republic because the same admiralty laws continue up to now. And that's why we choose this day today to announce that we are free people again. We have take our sovereignty back. And now, for the first time in 109 years, we are back to where we was in 1902. Our heritage, what can I say about it? Yes, during the Anglo-Boer War, they tried to wipe us out by starvation in the concentration camps, in which about 70% of our children died, and around about just over 4,000 women died in the concentration camps. And for a small nation, which was about 54,000 men at the beginning of the war. at the end of the war, there was only 24,000 men left in the field against over 500,000 British soldiers, plus out of the Afrikaners came 50,000. They joined the British ranks, and then we have the clergymen, the dominees, as they call them in this country, they collected yearly 30,000 pounds among themselves and give it to the British to continue the war. So the Afrikaners and the churches stay our biggest enemy in this country. And we must remember that our enemies isn't only the cabal, or may I call them the sable snouts. They are one of them, and they were the finances. If you can get a book, Dear Lord Rothschild, written, it's authored by one of the family members, Miriam Rothschild, and you read through it, and you will see why we had lost it. Because in that book, as she mentioned, when they asked Nathan Rothschild who he trusted most in the world, he doesn't mention one of his family members, not one of his children or his wife. He mentioned Jan Smith. So if we look at this guy, he was a so-called war general, but he was just an insider. We had sell us out. And Louis Botha, another general, was in conformity with it. So all these things is the things that made us lose this war, and what a shame.
Yeah.
Most people, they doesn't even know this knowledge. But if I look further into this matter, it's high time that we stand up, because nobody will do it for us. We must do it ourselves, out of our own responsibility, and start and work together, each and every one, for the benefit of us all. Because on the moment, as you know, they want to deprive us from our soil, and your land is your birthright. Your land is your life. Without land, you couldn't live. And the other thing, they now they want to take the weapons back by their own reasons. And what does it mean? It just mean one thing. They want to wipe us out. And by doing the right thing and emancipate or change your political status, you can keep your soil, you can keep your weapons, and many other things, because you are entitled to it. As we talk about people in our tongue, a folk. I know there is in English also the word folk, F-O-L-K, but the meaning of it changed dramatically from the old Germanic tongue, in which it means sovereign people.
Right.
Now, if you are a sovereign people, you are a folk, and according to the international law, it's only a folk that has the right to land. And the ANC isn't a folk; it's a conglomeration of different tribes. And it was a Jewish creation in 1912, and it's registered also as a corporation under their name. And that's where we must start thinking and think about ourselves and our existence, and think about our future. And by doing this step to take emancipation, you can protect yourself, because then you are sovereign and you have the same right, although we are very small people, and we have the same right as nations have, like China, like America, is the same rights under the same conditions. And then we can do our own thing, and we will be responsible for our own life and future. Thank you, Scott.
Right. No, thank you, Oom-Jan. Now, look, I just want to raise or make a couple of points, just that adds a bit of meat to the bone that you've been putting out there. And the first one is that until diamonds were found in the Free State, and I'm talking like at the Hope Diamond and obviously what happened at the Big Hole of Kimberley, the British colony in the Cape had absolutely no interest in the Boer republics, absolutely no interest at all, because there was nothing there financially for them. They let the Free State and the Transvaal remain totally independent. They ran their own countries. It was only once something of value, and we're talking originally about diamonds and later with gold on the Witwatersrand, it was only at that time that they suddenly took an interest in the independent Boer republics, which were stolen from them by the British. But behind the British were the Rothschilds, because the Rothschilds financed Cecil Rhodes in his basically buying all the small holdings of people who were mining diamonds at Kimberley. So you've got the money power that have been there from that time, once there was something of value that could be extracted from the ground in South Africa. So this wasn't something that just happened by accident. This was planned from the very start. David, do you just want to add to that before we move on to the next aspect of this emancipation?
Thanks, Scott.
Scott,
Yeah, carry on, Oom-Jan.
Praat asseblief, Oom-Jan.
Ja, ek begin. That's 100% correct. They have no interest in a lands like a Free State and Transvaal, because they think there is nothing in it. The only interest was the port at Simonstown near Cape Town, and that was their only interest at the beginning, to protect the British East Indian Company ships and supplied them with fresh food. That was the only interest they have. But on the other hand, they have the story in the head of Mutapa, the place of gold, because Egypt have gold and lots of gold in the old times, so there must be some gold deposits in Africa, and they started at North Africa, and they annexed Egypt, and they go little bit by little bit down the Nile River in their hunt for this Monumentama, the place of gold, and they couldn't find it. And that was the biggest reason they was after the gold. And when diamonds were found at Kimberley, which was inside the borders of the Free State, they reprieved the Free State from it. But in that time, the president of the Free State was or John Brandt, as they call him. Now, he was manipulated, the thing, because he was a student from the Inner Temple, a well-known Freemason. And all the British was about Freemasons, those in power, and they negotiate a settlement of £90,000. That's all that the Free State get back from it, and the land and everything was free from the Boers by playing a game that it belongs to the Griquas, and they start up with the story of Griqualand West, and at the end they get the judge there to make a judgment. Keith, you can read the Keith Awards, you can find it. Keith Awards, you will see, and he debriefed the Free State from that land, and the Griquas never get it. So they moved this little small tribe at that time into the Transkei, which they call later Griqualand East. So also these people was just a means to use as a tool, and this is the way the British worked. And after they found gold in Transvaal, they marked Transvaal is their new Ethiopia, or the land of Canaan.
Right.
They used the new land of Canaan because here is the land of everything, and they know it right long before, and that's why they call in the Shepton. He was the governor of Natal after they annexed it from the Boers, and they call him in and they discussed him with him, and there was a lord, yes, I forgot his name. Call him in, and they took him to Queen Victoria and they knighted him before he did the work in Transvaal, because they know at that time. And they come with the annexation in 1877, and the Boers stand up and went 2 times to England to discuss their freedom and everything, and they laughed at him, and after that we took up arms, and the result was we regained our freedom. And since 1883, the gold mines proved to be the richest mines on the planet. And from there, they're going ahead and start with the propaganda, because they don't like to pay 10% taxes on it. And so they start with the propaganda in England, and they carry on to the Jameson Raid, which was organized by Sir John Rhodes. And when that failed, they started with another.
I guess what we're saying here, Jan, is the deception. The deception of the British was quite extraordinary.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. What I was saying, Jan, is the deception of the British back then was quite extraordinary. You know, they were not. They had no integrity. And I just want to add to what you were saying about Kimberley, because the land that they actually annexed originally was called Griqualand West, which was the free land of the Griqua. They've got a town that's still there today called Griqua Town, which is about 100 kilometers west of Kimberley. Kimberley used to be apparently this sort of, they weren't sure whether it was in Griqualand West or whether it was in the Free State. And of course, this is a totally different story for another day. But Andries Waterboer, who was the leader of the Griquas back then, was basically stripped of his land by the British just by the stroke of a pen. And this is how they operated. They were just, the deception, the way they just took people's land from themselves is quite extraordinary. And of course, the people who were behind it were the same people who are today behind the corporations of the countries. In other words, we're not free countries. We're actually part of a corporation that's been sold to the money power.
Yes, I agree to that, but then we must look a little bit around the corner, a little bit way back in history, and this was the coming of William the Conqueror to England. William the Conqueror was financed by the rich people, and when he invaded it and he overpowered the English people, they divided the land, I think, in 192 pieces, and each of these finances get a piece of land. And he became the landlord, as we know it, the landlords. Right. And all the English people was his property on that land. Yeah. All of them was immediately slaves of these lords, the landlords. And from that time, we have the word Pommy. Pommy is an acronym. It stands for Prisoner of Mother England. It was the motherland of the British people. But now, with the new conquerors, they became their slaves. And that's why they call it personal of Mother India. This their motherland, but eventually there are prisoners there, forced laborers for the lords.
Right. Now, look, I'm going to ask David, because we've basically now given a good background to the deception and the way the Boers basically had their land stolen from them. I'm talking about the Free State and the Transvaal, which were sovereign countries which were just basically stripped off them through the Boer War, and completely illegal. It was an attack just over the assets, the gold and the diamonds, had nothing to do with anything else, although history tries to tell us otherwise. Now, David, I want to address a question to you now. Let's talk about the recovery of freedom by the Boer Nation from these illegal occupiers who are now basically controlling South Africa. Talk to us about that.
Scott, this is a folk thing. We need to get our folk together in order to have that plan ahead and to know where this is going to go to. We know one thing for sure, and that is that our enemy, as you rightfully said, uses deception. He has used it for 2,000 years. And every other tribe around us and all over the world, I mean, as you rightly said, they've taken over the world. We've come to the end of this chess game, and we need to come together in order to make this plan. And we've never been able to get this Boervolk together because of the deception. The biggest one being our problem with, the many denominations of religion. It's been one of the problematic issues ever since. At this stage, bringing in the laws of creation and the common law and leaving politics and religion to one side and coming in and using reason to plot our path and our plan against this common enemy of the world needs to happen now. And the quicker we can get our people, into our volkshuis, getting our courts running, and getting our Volksraad together, which is our state assembly, we can plot a reasoned path forward. At this stage, our feeling is the communism has brought us to this point. There's a revolution going on, and we need to learn from them. What they've done to us in order to recuperate. If we just take something like BEE, which the ANC has taught us about, we're going to start using our own BEE, but Boer economic empowerment, to bring our enterprises together and consolidate so that you have a weapon to use against this common enemy. And that's our food. If we look at the statistics of the last 25 years, just on the amount of farmers on the land and how many farmers have been killed and the loss of land, we're sitting with about 30,000 farmers left. I couldn't tell you what the total amount was when they took over, but it was 4 or 5 times that amount. So, we've passed the point of no return on this genocide, and we don't have any more time. This is a last shot that we've got. As you said in the past on your programs, the adults in the room need to step up to the plate, and that's exactly what the Boervolk's done now. When you checkmate, you don't have any options, and our only option now is to go back to our ancestral roots, where when we're in trouble, we pull the lager. This time, around our volkshuis, we need to consolidate. There's no more barrels of guns to retake power, we're going to do it the same way as our enemy did it to us, by a stroke of a pen, as you said, no. So that is our route. It's for peace and freedom. We stand under a white flag. Our flag was risen on the 5th of February. We've got our ground, our righteous ground, and we're going to carry on. We are not going to capitulate into what they have planned for us. We will not get involved in a civil war. There's many groups out there that are representing us, or think they represent the Boer, but they don't. They don't represent the Boervolk. They have the Freemasonry influences, the same old. So yes, we have identified who our enemy is. It's not the tribes around us. The tribes around us are sitting in the same situation as us. And for the first time, we've been able to wake up and look around us and realize what is reality around us. And if we don't do something now, there isn't any more time left, you know. So this has to happen.
Right. Now, in your document where you talk about reclaiming your freedom, there's a statement I want to just read from it, and I'd like BT to just talk to this. And the statement says, all members of the Boer Nation will submit their claim of right to be independent from the corporations, the lien of the state against their beams, the claim of the British Crown, the Vatican, and all and any entity that claim or intend to claim any authority or historical superiority against or over the Boer Nation. Some members' presented claims are already accepted by all entities addressed, and no other claims can be opposed based on the precedents already established. This claim of right across the Boer Nation and its members, with the right to establish a full government structure with unencumbered international authority over its own affairs, including the rights of protection and defense of the property it recognizes and inhabits. BT, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, Scott. First principle is that there are established principles in law, and one of them is, in the same manner that something is bound, it is unbound. So we are still bound under these papal bulls and Roman laws and codes going back for thousands of years. And the first step in emancipation is to unbind those codes. You know, it's almost like black magic. So we've got to, undo the voodoo. So this is the first step in the emancipation process. And then, of course, even by their own legal terms, when a document is filed and it hasn't been rebutted, well, then it becomes a default judgment, and it can now be used as evidence in a common law court.
Right.
So they can't claim that they didn't know, because the notice to principal is notice to agent. And this holds true for every nation around the planet. You know, there's common law courts popping up in every country, even yours, and they are busy developing their court processes. And yeah, people are only accountable before common law courts, before jury. They're not accountable to any legal fiction state in reality. And we are there to start educating the people as to see through the deception and comprehend the very, very basics of what jurisdiction is and what their rights are.
Right. Now, I've got a few questions that have come through, and I just want to address, we've got close to 400 people watching us at the moment. If you've got a question, please just put it in the side chat, put Loving Life before so it stands out, because otherwise I'll probably miss it. But I've got questions at the moment from Hanli Fasachi, Digital X, and Red Sky Alice, which I'll be putting to our guests in a second. With respect to Hanli Fasachi, she says, I want to divorce the ANC and send us an email so I can get information to register for emancipation. What's the best way to do that, David? What's the best way for people to contact you?
Scott, at the moment, we launched our website. It's at zarboervolk.net. We are putting it out on the groups at the moment, and you can go there and you know, it's English and an Afrikaans site that's well, Boer site, so that will take you to where you need to be, to the emancipation pages, and will give you the necessary instructions how to do it yourself. And it's also got a chat facility. You know, if it's a little too technical, you can drop us an email and we'll get right back to you.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that answers your question, Hanli. I've put the website address in the side chat there. Now, I'm not sure who to address this question to. Perhaps let me just ask Marius this question. Marius, we're talking about the Boervolk forming their own emancipated, free society, free of the corruption and the gangsterism of the ANC government. You're the sheriff of the People's Court. How are you going to enforce this situation for your people?
Okay. What you have to remember is this is not singular. When we talk about the sheriff office or the court, it's a plural thing, defining there will be courts right over South Africa in each province. When Jan is the Chief Justice, he will have to make sure that all the courts will be operating according to the own rules as set out by the common law. So when Jan is a Chief Justice, underneath him there will be justices in provinces and in towns, and below that he will be justice of peace for small and petty, for small and petty crimes and all that. Now, the sheriff office, myself, is not the sheriff actually of the court. I'm the sheriff of the ZABR, or the Zuid-Afrikaanse Republic, and our office is basically responsible for the defense of the ZAR nationals, our law, to uphold our law, and also to defend our property and our rights. Now, there's some procedures actually is when the people emancipate, the emancipation process has to come through our office, so that we or myself can have control over who emancipated, who's a a citizen that's lying, or who's the true ZAR national. So once they're emancipated through the offices, then either if they don't process it themselves, the officers here do the processing themselves. We send it to the 3 various departments concerning for RSA Inc., SARS Department of Trade, in the Constitutional Court of their province. And then on our system, then we regulate that, and after 30 days, these people, because there has to be 30 days for these RSA Inc. departments that we send these notifications to them that these people is emancipating. After 30 days, if there's no objection against it, then as BT said, it's a default. Silence is consent, and then the people got the right to change their political status from incorporated into RSA to becoming sovereign or unincorporated, a true sovereign ZAR national. And then after 30 days, obviously they get ZAR ID card that the office processes for them. And then they're entitled on a private notice property board that they can actually erect, or they can put it there on their gates or on their doors. Just to say that RSA Inc. has got no jurisdiction over that property, and they're not allowed to enter without consent. And then the officers also do land patents. We can actually take back the Lodium title back from the title deeds officers and bring it back under a sovereign umbrella, under the jurisdiction or under the protection of the sheriff or the jural or the Volkshof. So if these people, when they stay wherever they are, when they're emancipated, remember, it's not always about the ZAR or the Free State Republics. We represent the Boervolk right over South Africa, wherever you are, we in exile. And there where you are, you got sovereign rights. Even if you're renting or you letting or you actually bought a place, your house is your castle, and you've got sovereign rights. Let's say, for instance, the whole thing about this whole jural assembly, what you call a Volkshof, is actually a bigger picture concerning the whole Zuid-Afrikaanse Republic. And in that structure, as Dave said, we've got your state assembly with various houses that we have to get up and going, like economy and medical and health and all that. And part of that, you sit with your justice system and with your defense or your militia, and that's still under the sheriff's department. So if there's any land claims, we've got the right as a last resort. As Dave said, we stand under the white flag, and the white flag of peace always have preference above war. We stand for freedom and for justice. So as a last resort, if there's a land claim or anything that's happening there in RSA can't sort out their own people, then we as a sovereign state or people, either sheriff have the right to call up a militia to defend our sovereign property, either the enemy's domestic or foreign. And this is a class action thing. What we have to remember is this whole Boervolk have to be, as I said, they have to be eendrachtig. And to be eendrachtig, as jy saam staan, unity makes power. You can't break unity. And once we're a unit, then we're not going to bend for the ANC. What we're going to do is we're going to stand for our rights as given to us by the UN Resolution 1514. And the whole of Africa exercised their rights, and all these African states were decolonized and were given back to their rightful owners, except South Africa. After 1902, in 1910 and 61 and all that, we were still pushed into this republics that's not sovereign, and we never asked for that. Same with all the other nations. So this is a unit thing. And as I said, we have the right to defend ourselves, but it's very important that all the systems has to go through these offers so that we know who's sovereign, who falls under the dual land and soil jurisdiction and not under RSA Inc. And then from our officers, obviously, it goes to the commissioner, to Dave, to his office, where he sends out all the letters and see where the people can fit into the state assembly. And yes.
Right. Now, David, I have a question for you. We're talking about rights here of an emancipated people. And some of those rights include the right to trade unencumbered and without usury, the right to education and embracing national culture, and the right to individual inviolability of the person of members. Do you want to just talk about the rights of people who become part of the Boervolk?
Well, the first right that they've got is that they're the boss. We're a Republican government, which means the people are the boss and they make the rules, and your government system, your Volksraad, and all your various rooms within the house, whichever, there's so many rooms. Each social function that you have fits into a room, be it education, be it our economic house, which we call our handelshuis. Each of them functions as a administrative function, where the people are the boss, and it gets reported to them. And basically, once they've got that right of being the boss, all the other rights come with it. So, it's difficult to try and identify or split up split them all up and discuss each one. But that's
Right.
the basic gist of it. Is once you're free and you're emancipated and you've joined your cultural group, and can come into this house, we are able to exercise. You're able to exercise your freedom of thought and freedom of in every respect. We're looking at our own educational system and content. Everything's been, there isn't any aspect of our life that hasn't been poisoned and corrupted. We basically need to start again as a folk, and I think that's the biggest and most exciting part of it, is that it's got to start again, and
Right.
we need to put our minds together as a unit and come together and love each other, and we'll come out on top. We'll
Right.
have the morality standard to pass on to the next if we can achieve it.
Okay. Now, I just have to tell you that we do have a little bit of sound distortion happening. It's not really bad, but it isn't perfect. We're getting like a sound coming through from while you guys are talking, but we can hear what you're saying over that sound. And some people have suggested that we reinstitute the Zoom session to see if that gets rid of the sound. Because Paul Putter said that buzzing noise is driving me batty, for example. Now, would look? For me, it's fine. I mean, we can still hear what's been said, but we have an option. We can just continue as we are, or if you like, we can reconstitute a new Zoom session and see if that fixes the sound problem. It's up to you, Dave. What would you like to do?
Scott, I've rearranged some of the wiring here. It's like a spider's web around me here.
Oh, okay.
I think if we can take turns at just turning off our mics, I've got a suspicion it might be on Marius' side. Can you maybe, when the rest are speaking, maybe just mute your mic, Marius?
Marius, can you mute your mic for us? See if that helps.
Just try mute your mic.
I think it's muted.
No, it's not muted at the moment. I can see that BT says, because there's a little line through the mic.
You see, if I mute, then Jan disappears. So
Yeah.
I'm going to mute quickly, and then you can just tell me whether that's.
Marius is muted. No, he hasn't muted yet. No. Okay. Yeah.
How do I get?
Yeah, no, I still hear it, even with you muted, David. Okay, now Marius is muted. Okay, David, can you come back on again?
There we go. I think we've got the problem.
Yes.
The problem is on Marius' side.
Yeah, the problem is on
Marius?
Marius' side, because it's now disappeared. That's much better. Okay. All right, guys. I think we've solved the problem. I think it's Marius's connection for some reason. All right. Now, we've talked about the rights of the Boervolk under this new this new development, or this emancipation of the people. How are you going to let the government in South Africa know that this is what you guys are now going to do?
Scott, we've already done that. We've already told the government. We've sent in our documents, as I say, on the 5th of February. We waited the 30 days for them to respond. There was no response. We've subsequently been around. Marius will be able to elaborate a little. He's been around to various government departments. But really, this is all about education, you know, not only about them, but our own folk. And part of the emancipation process is to fulfill those responsibilities. And that is about not only educating your fellow burgers or volksgenote. We need to educate everyone around us, including the authorities, be it the police, be it the army for that matter. we're going to need to go to the municipalities. We're going to need to, we've got a program on the go where we, for the emancipators, once they get into the Volkshuis, each has a certain responsibility, and it's happening. That's the idea, is that each one takes up the responsibility and goes and does what he needs to.
Right.
But Marius has got it jacked in terms of going to see who we need to. BT's also, advising us. We're going to be doing an ambassadorial visit shortly. That's on the cards, but we just had to get past this day.
Right. Now, okay, now Marius has come back on audio and we can hear that distortion coming back again. Marius, would you like to just add to what David was saying? And then we'll get you to mute again after.
Okay, what we have to remember is, as Dave said, we are in session since the 5th of February 2021, and all notices were given to all government departments concerning. And as BT quoted before, they had a 21 or 30-day period where they could actually lodge do a complaint to see that they actually checked with us establishing a dual assembly of common law, and that we are emancipating from RSA into becoming sovereign. So then there was a default judgment. They never objected. So we are in session. Once again, it's just basically going back to education, where we have to go and educate all these to say that we are in session. They've got no jurisdiction over us. They can't prove jurisdiction over us. And that's the way that we have to go. As I said, the ZR Boervolk, or the ZR Volkshof, the Volkscourt, is the court of first instance concerning all aspects concerning the Boervolk, their property, their rights to live. And RSA Inc.'s got no jurisdiction over that. They've been asked to prove that they've got jurisdiction, and they do not have jurisdiction over us.
Right. Okay. Now, Marius, can you mute your mic again? Because we're getting that distortion coming back through again. Now, David, I'm going to address Jan. Jan, is there something you'd like to say in Afrikaans to the people who are watching the video now, or who might watch it later? Just your thoughts about this emancipation, the importance of this day for the Boervolk in South Africa.
Thank you, Scott. I will address my people in Boer tongue by saying, and I will quickly go over it in short, from the beginning where I start in Europe, and I can tell my people, vanuit hierdie verre verlede, ver af uit die geskiedenis van ons voorsate, lê ons spore hier na Afrika. Terugkykend is dit geplaveid met ons bloed. Hierdie land is deurdrink van ons bloed. Maar ver af is 'n lig gesien, 'n beweging van 'n ewig helderder dag, en woorde is volgebore dinge, wat bedoel 'n beweging afkomstig van die aarde, van gebonde bewussyn, 'n geboorte van gebeure, verhewe op hierdie aarde, hier in hierdie oomblik, waar ons uittreë uit die smeltkroes, waar ons die verdrukking nie meer kan weerstaan. En ek sal gehoorsaam en die reg spreek. Die stompheid van die eeu ontdooi en kennis lank gesuiwer en bewaar. Wysheid wat in die golwe gerus het van die eerste vloed, die stilde oorspoel het, en verdryf die mense, en nou van gister en eergister, ontvou nou van die innergees van gister, ontkoers van sy eie soort, wysheid wat grein op goue grein, mooi uitwaarts van ons hart se eie pyn, wysheid wat ween en verwond uitroep, teen die donker wordende haat wat lieg, bloed wat gestort is op julle skuldige dae, het ons verhoed om ons vryheid te kry, want ons het gestry. Ons is deur die politieke stelsel van die vyand oorweldig, maar die vyand se stelsel kan ons nie meer hou. Daardie band het gebreek onder die nuwe begeerte om weer ons vryheid volgens die reg wat die skepping aan ons bied en waarvoor ons geskape is om deel te wees van hierdie simbiose op hierdie aarde. Die boeke is geopen nou en sien wat die skepping aan u geskenk het. Die lewe van almal wat leef en wen, redding van die verkose droom, vir u om te neem, vir u om te skien, of bewaar en reinheid wat sal skitter. Hoe kan alle wysheid wat die golwe gebring het, na die mens van die eerste skure, wat skuil in die geheime see van ons generasie, waaruit die boodskap nou helder en belangrik skyn, om te red wat ons kan red, om te bewaar wat ons kan bewaar, want dit is ons roepingsdoel op hierdie aarde. Beskerm en laat die kennis gaan, net na hulle, die begeer om te weet, die innerlikste lied van die gety, die weierfluistering wat sweef, hoe oor die ou windverrukte jare, om te gelei die droom, tot die dag wat nou bo op ons berge glim en flou strale straal. En daarom moet ek aan u bring, ek moet volbring wat ek verbreek, want net deur wat ek volbring het, wat ek gebreek het in die verlede, deur agter die dwaling aan te loop, het ek geleer wat is reg, en nou moet ons ontdoen die verkeerd wat ons gesmee het, en afsmeek die veredende vrede, rus wat ons verdien, en sange wat straal, flauwstrale van die skepping so ontsluitende droom. Die vleuels is oor ons, my broeders, my suster, wandel tussen u, sy wie se grys oor wil vergader, jou in hierdie seisoene van sange, neerdalend op ons, om my bloed verwant is, my dig, onversamel dig by my hart, om my verlate suster, leem naby aan my hart. Nou, ek moet vir u die lied van die toekoms bring, die lied van rede. Ons het uitbeweeg onder die sterrebeeld van die sterre, waar ons die sterre aanbid het, want die paus verteenwoordig Dagon die visgod. Kyk na hom en sien die waarheid. Ons het gekom in die eeuw van rede. Hierdie millennium wat voorlê en die wat kom, is die mens se beeld, wat die Aquarius teken is, waarin die mens weer sy doel moet bereik, om uit te styg oor hierdie windverrukte jare, en uitstyg weer, om sy plek te neem, in die toekoms van ons land, in 'n vreugdevolle tyd. Daarom roep ek weer na u, om my bloedverwantes, versamel dig by my hart, om my verlate suster, leem naby aan my hart. Nederig is ek tussen u, en ek is gebloei vir my brood, te lank, figurant, te lank tussen u, maar u is bekosbaar, maar nou die ontwakende vleuels smekend, wedergeboorte.
Right. Wow.
Dat is wedergeboorte, en ek speel het drom, en die weerklank sidder u siel, en ek lig het trompet, en die verskal kom tot u siel, en ek vind 'n fluit, en die deentjie dring tot u siel, vorm tot klank, en die ritme opwek in die wind en die waters, versamel tot vaar, elke een na sy eie soort, wat ons gun aan die res van die wêreld, aan elke ras, en ek dink aan die Britse oorheersing in ons land. Hulle het gekom met die Anglo-Kosa oorloë, en hulle die Kosas oorwin, en hulle die Kosas se land gevat, hulle het hulle soewereiniteit gevat, hulle het na die Zulus gehardloop, en die Anglo-Zulu oorlog en hulle verpletter en hulle land verkreupel, en hulle het ook nie hulle suvereniteit teruggekry nie. Die een van die lande wat onafhanklik geword het hulle suvereniteit teruggekry in Afrika en oral in die wêreld waar hulle ingekruip het. Maar hulle is geregistreer as die eiendom van die lords. Nou roep ons weer uit vanuit die swerwende gees, huiwer die lied. Vanuit die aanraking van gees, swel in die lied. Uit die verskyning van gees bestendig die lied. Gee die woord en ontwaking tref die aarde, al die hoeke van die aarde, met hierdie stem van wedergeboorte, om my witgeeste, julle wat ver is, soek julle lied, om my bloedverwant en naby is, vergaar julle lied, en hierdie tyd van sange, en sing dit op die strate, sing dit tot elke een dit hoor, die nuwe tyd het gekom, die tyd is in bloei, en die golwe sal weer kom, en sy verwoestende skrede, en die noorderhalf sal wegsink in die see. En hier waar ons is, hier sal reeds 'n nuwe land, 'n nuwe volk, 'n toekoms vir elke ene om te begeer. En u sal wandel met u sange, en u moet ontwaak die strate met u sange, van vryheid en reg, wat eenmaal was, wat weggeneem is, toe die duistere magte verskyn het, en bekleed oor die aarde gegooi het, 'n sluier oor u getrek het, en die gees van wysheid u ontneem is, om knegte en slawe te wees, vir hulle wat u nou wil uitwis in hierdie tyd, waarin hulle die magtige tirannie voel, en deur elke volk te ontwaak, en elke volk by mekaar te maak, vernietig julle mag, dat hulle enkel alleen sal staan, soos hulle sê, die 1%, en u sal weet, u het die pad geloop, en u het die pad na vryheid geloop, en die woorde van God vir die watermeier, in die republiek van 1000 jaar, waar hy vir ons sê, in 'n republiek wat ons verklaar, anker die skepper vir sy droom van 1000 jaar, hier word sy raadsaal uitgebou, waar ons die suide suiwer hou, en lig word wat tot bewussyn kom, erf ons die rigterstaf van hom, word voorwaarts in die groter plek, wat deur die wysheid herontdek, die binnelande van die gees oopstel, vir God, vir die goddelikheid bewus te wees. Ek thank you a lot, Scott, for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
Wow. Look, thank you, Jan. I have to tell you that the side chat, the comments went in meltdown when you started talking. Everybody was saying, wow. And Liz Austin basically summed up what people were saying. And she says, ek is lief vir die taal. And all I just want to say and add to that is, just last year, the Boer language was voted internationally as the sexiest language in the world. you can understand why. I mean, what you could listen to Jan talking for hours, couldn't you? Absolutely extraordinary. Luckily, I understood most of what he was saying. Now, I want to get back to one of the key issues here that needs to be addressed with this emancipation, David, and I'm not sure if you're the right person to put this to or whether it should go to BT, but the question is, what about the claim to your territory, your traditional territory? Because the Boer Nation claims full title and rights to the whole area that constituted the internationally recognized territory occupied by the ZAR as established in January 1852, and the Republic of the Orange Free State in January 1854. Can you tell us how is this going to actually be undertaken?
Could I answer this? And then I think
yeah, BT, go ahead.
Okay, firstly, when you start deconstructing this language that they use called legalese, then you will see the semantic deceit and the color of law. So when you look at our tax act, even your tax act go and look in your Tax Act, in ours it says the definition of republic is it states including the territorial waters of the sea. Now, when they use the word including, it means the exclusion of everything else. So, by their own technical legal terms, the Republic of South Africa only has jurisdiction over the territorial waters because they are operating under Admiralty law. They have no claim on the land. In fact, we have no Land Act. It's only the tribal peoples that have their acknowledged Land Act, but they would be committing fraud if they tried to lay claim to the land with Land Acts, because land is actually a low deal. You know, you cannot own land. You can have custodianship over the land and the land that you work. But, you know, this earth was granted to us in trust by our Creator, whoever we believe our Creator to be, to live freely without being encumbered, you know, by any taxes or permits or anything like that. So the bottom line is, getting back to your statement, is that number one, we the people are the government, we the people are the state, we the people are the shareholders of this land, and have full custodianship over that. And all of the tribes already have a common agreement as to what their territories are. So it's not just the Boervolk, but a lot of the kingdoms will soon be emancipating too and declaring their own sovereign and independent states. And all of these sovereign and independent states together only form half of South Africa. So if every tribe gets sovereignty over their territory, and the Boervolk gets sovereignty over the territory that they have, then there's still another 50% available to give sovereign territory to the Khoi people and to give sovereign territory to the San people. And that's how the Rainbow Nations should be. In a republic, the republic is made up of foreign states, each with their own customs and laws, but making treaties with each other, and each sending representatives to represent them internationally. But there's no need for politics. Politics was designed to divide the people. It's time to end all of these games. We need to get back to reality. And no government can claim this territory. Republic of South Africa is not a lawful government. We will challenge it in any court or in any debate. They are merely here to provide services. They are a corporation, nothing more than McDonald's or Burger King. And need to restrict them to their limited jurisdiction. Okay, sorry, David, I had to squeeze that in.
No, that's
thank
fine,
you very
BT.
much.
Now, BT, what you're actually saying is that South Africa, in a legal format, should actually be a federation of independent states who can form alliances and who can form trade agreements and stuff like that. Is that correct?
Because of legalese, I would, you know, I would shy away from any of these words that have been created by the legal experts. So I would rather say that we settle for a republican form of government, because after all, we're not a democracy, we are a republic. If you look in the Constitution, it talks about the republic, it doesn't talk about the democracy. We were meant to be a republic. And Thomas Jefferson himself said, a republic is the only form of government which is not eternally at open or secret war with the rights of mankind. So it is also the customary law of the Boervolk to have a republican form of government. And hopefully when we have the majority of kingdoms emancipating themselves, then we can convert South Africa back from a foreign corporate corporation back into a republican form of government.
Right. Now, Gerard Hugo has said, what about the San or the Bushmen and the Khoikhoi or the Hottentots? They are the First Nation people. We must recognize them as first custodians of the land. And Gerard, that's exactly what BT said. He actually said that that would be recognized in certain areas. Now, David, going back to you, what would you like to add to what BT said?
You know, sorry, Scott. We've been deprived of our republics for about 13 times. There were 13 different republics coming up to where we are, where we're starting off from. Every time the Boervolk got together and tried to create their dream, it was annexed by the same crown, the same enemy. And we're starting off where we are at the moment, as you stipulated earlier, bearing in mind that Republic of Vryheid was a province of the Transvaal at the time. So if we look at the old Transvaal, we do have a port, which would be Richards Bay. It goes up to the Limpopo, which would include the Kruger Park at this stage. Also, obviously, as Marius mentioned earlier, every piece of ground that a Boervolk is standing on at the moment belongs to the ZODR, be in Namibia or anywhere in South Africa. We will be a checkered republic because of the situation we've been put in by our enemy, and we have to work from there to sort out this mess.
Right.
That's all.
Sorry, I'm just adding your website to the description below the video, so people. Okay, so I've just added the website for the ZAR Boervolk to the description of the video, so you can always look at that later on and contact the organization directly. Now, okay, let's just get back to, sorry, I've just lost my position here while I was doing that. Yeah, carry on, Marius.
I just want to read to the people, just referring back to the topic that we just discussed about all the sovereign nations within South Africa, who's got claim on what.
Right.
And I'm just here to the people. I'm referring now to the UN Resolution 1514 from 1960. And it was declared, and that resolution stands when the whole of Africa were colonized. After 1960, all these African states were colonized, were given back to their rightful owners, except for
Marius.
Africa.
Marius,
Yes.
could you sit closer to the microphone, because you're quite quiet. Okay, carry on.
So, okay,
Sorry, Marius. Is your charger on, perhaps? Or is your phone perhaps plugged in at a charger or anything? If you could uncouple it, I'm not sure if that would help.
Nothing. No, my battery is full. It's freestanding here, so I don't think the problem is from me. But can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay, the UN Resolution 1514 from 1960 stipulates, and that resolution is still standing, and that's applicable on all the sovereign nations that were in South Africa that were colonized. It says that the subjection of people to alien subjugation, domination, and exploitation constitutes a denial of fundamental human rights. Then it says all people have the right to self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their own political status and freely pursue their own economical, social, and cultural development. Inadequately, or political, economical, social, or educational preparedness should never serve as a pretext for delaying independence. All armed action, all repressive measurements of all kinds directed against dependent people shall cease in order to enable them to exercise peacefully and freely their right to complete independence, and the integrity of the national territory shall be respected. Then it says, immediate steps shall be taken in trust and non-self-governing territories, in all other territories which have not attained independence, and to transfer all power to the people of those territories without any conditions or reservations in according to their freely expressed will and desire, without any distinction of race, creed, or color, in order to enable them to enjoy complete independence and freedom. So, basically, that's from the United Nations, and that UN resolution still stands. What we have to do as a Boervolk, or if you're part of the Xhosa folk, or the Zulu, or the Khoisan, that's your right to stand up and to claim your rightful sovereign states of land that belonged to us before 1902. That's your right to stand up and claim that back. And when we do that, part of this whole process is to emancipate. And when you emancipate it, that's how we can start restoring what was stolen from the Boervolk. We can restore or claim back our ID. We can claim back our inheritance, our land, our minerals that's been stolen. But you can't say that you were, if you did not emancipate, with an SA citizen, then you're subject to their stats tax.
Right.
Only if you are national, then you can say, but I'm actually a part of the
Marius, can
Yes.
you get closer to the mic again?
Okay, I'm very close. Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened is now, when you emancipate, that's the beginning of the process to restore what was stolen from the Boervolk. That includes our ID, that includes our inheritance, that includes our land and our minerals. You can't claim back that belong to the Boervolk if you say that you are an SA citizen and you are subject of RSA that rules you with stats and with codes and with acts. So once you're a ZR national, then truthfully, then you can stand up and claim what is lawfully yours, and you can say, but I'm a Boer, or I'm a Zulu, or I'm a Xhosa. But then when we, the Boer people, once we emancipated and we claim our rights back, then I think we should start with this progress with reparation agreements between the Boervolk and Great Britain for that Boer Holocaust, where 25,000 Boer prisoners were sent to prison camps, including youngsters that fight with their Boer fathers. That includes 28,000 women and children that died into British that scorched earth policy that they enforced. Yes, and that's where everything has to start. The same what, I don't know the history, but the same what Germany has to do with Israel. I think once we emancipated and we claim back our land and our rights, we have to start with this reparation agreements between the Boervolk and Great Britain. And the thing is, like, we the Boervolk, they hate the way that we shine, and I can say that we've been excluded from everything. You know, I think there's 7 Ubuntu trusts in South Africa. That's the Abutembus, the Xhosas, the Fundus, the Zulus, the Pidis, the Pindas, and I think the Matabelas and that. Those 7 trusts or those kingdoms, they get in excess of 650 million rand a year from RSA taxpayers to sustain those kingdoms. For ground that RSA uses. But where is the trust money that are supposed to come to the Boervolk for the ZAR and the Free State? Why have we been excluded out of this? Yeah. Don't we, Boervolk, have a right to say, but where is our trust monies until we get our sovereign republics back? And that's the thing that we have to stand up and we have to believe in what we stand, and we just have to enforce this down on RSA and say, this is our rights, and we're going to take back our rights.
Right. Okay. Now, you raised a very interesting point there, and it's something that I couldn't agree with you more. And you mentioned how Israel was basically given Palestine, or the Jewish people were basically given government over what was previously Palestine. And I just want to raise a point for people listening here. This is the extraordinary turn of events that happened for that to, for Israel to become an independent state. You had the secretary of the government writing a private letter. His name was Balfour. He wrote a private letter called the Balfour Declaration to the Rothschilds. And the letter basically said, we are going to give this land back to the Jewish people. Now, that letter wasn't written to the community. It was actually written to the guys who are behind the scenes controlling the arms of government. We're talking about the money power. We're talking about the Rothschilds. And once that Balfour Declaration was posted and received by the Rothschilds, the state of Israel became a reality. This is how invasive, how insidious the situation is behind the scenes. Now, I'm going to start going to questions here. Marius, can you turn your mic off again, because that sound is definitely linked to your audio. Okay. Now, David, I'm going to ask you who's the best person to respond to each question I've got here. I'm going to start off with Digital Lex, who says, besides the possibility of armed resistance, what exactly is stopping the Boervolk from claiming back and establishing renewed independence in the past recognized Boer Nation?
Well, we've already covered that. We established already on the first 20 days after the 5th of February.
Okay, but I think he's talking about the actual claiming governance over the land, because at the moment it's still, let's face it, the ANC government has still got their governors and their politicians in there.
Yeah, this is a war of the pen. There is no, we don't look at, any war-related outlook. We're doing this with a pen, just like they did it to us.
Right.
Not originally after the war, but everything's been done to us over the past 119 years through a pen, and we're coming back with that same pen, and we're doing it. Right. And it's happening now.
Okay. Red Sky Alice has asked. Okay, now we've done that one. Okay, we got the website linked below this video in the description. George Franks has asked, Setau Kwevi Act of 1666 meant that the Black Plague, the Crown declared everyone dead, mainly lost at sea. I think this is where the Admiralty law comes in, and all rights have been taken by the state and put in a trust. Now, the Boer folk have never been part of Admiralty law, have they? They've always been free burghers and a free people, so they're outside Admiralty law, aren't they?
No, yes, once you've emancipated. Until you've emancipated, that's where you find yourself, unfortunately.
Right, okay. Michael
You've
Lawson,
run from it ever since.
Michael Lawson has said, how can we seek approval internationally from the elite when it is they who run the global corporation?
E.T., will you come in on that one?
I'd like to answer this one, Scott. Must realize that these new emerging free and independent sovereign kingdoms, states, republics, they are operating under land jurisdiction in reality, whereas the whole international community are acting as legal fictions under Admiralty law, which is one jurisdiction. So we don't seek their recognition. What we will be doing is getting all of these free and independent republics to begin recognizing each other from across the world. The same with the common law courts. The common law courts will eventually start uniting in a union and cooperating and evening out the procedures for our common laws, learning from each other, developing a new system. Remember, what we are doing here is know that the current system is bankrupt, it's corrupt, it's really history. So, like Minister Fuller said, we can't change this existing paradigm. We have to build a new alternative that makes the current one redundant. So more and more people across the world in finance, crypto, whatever, are building, investing their energy in building an alternative system instead of trying to fight this old one. So we're not looking for recognition with international legal and registered bodies. They are all part of Mystery Babylon, Old World, New World Order. We are looking to begin treaties and making agreements and start trading with other sovereign nations that are emerging right across the earth.
Right. Okay. Now, next question. Ben Potgieter, what is the immediate next step forward? David?
Once you're emancipated, you come into the Volkshuis. You need to do a registration on our website. You'll be taken to the legal department or the sheriff's department, where you get sorted out with your, as Morris mentioned earlier, various aspects of becoming a Volksgenoot, which is your ID, etc., etc. And then you're going to be placed within a room, within the house, within the Volkshuis that you choose to be in. In other words, you are doing what you do at the moment, but you are merged together in order to link together to form this single entity, which we call eendrachtigheid. We need to start thinking on the same vibration and start having the same vision of where we're going. And that can only happen once you've integrated everything that belongs to the Boervolk in terms of knowledge, enterprise, education, and every other cultural value we can add. From there, we will find our way forward. As far as the Wim Jan's poem, his poetry that he brought up, you know, there are many Boers, Boervolk members, or Boers of our own bloodline that are distributed all over the world at the moment. And we reach out to them and tell them to do the same as we do. They're all going through the same hell as what we are in terms of this communism that's coming down over the world, bending knees and all the rest of it. Consolidate and let's reach out our hands to one another and form a unity under the common law, as BT was putting it. And lead the way, you know, lead the way for those around you. And that's where we're heading.
Right. Okay. Now, I'm going to start wrapping up this live stream. We've gone for nearly 2 hours, so we've certainly given it a good go. David, I'm going to put this in your hands. I'd like every person who's spoken tonight just to have something to say in closing off the live stream. But David, if you'd like to pick who talks when, I'll leave this to you, and perhaps we'll get you to do the final comment. And then maybe after that, perhaps get Oom Jan to say a prayer in closing this live stream, perhaps in the Boer language.
Yes, thank you very much, Scott. I'd like Marius to have that first opportunity in closing. Marius.
Scott, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you, Marius. Yeah.
Yes. So what I can say is, basically what it comes down to is there's two things that you can do now. Either you can emancipate and you can become sovereign and you can serve the creator of the heaven and the earth that gave us our right to be sovereign, and that each nation or tribe that he created could rule over themselves. Or you can still stay unemancipated and be incorporated in any government system, and you can serve their God, and their God is a grantor of dominion. So that is basically the choice that you have. You can either serve their God, the God of dominion, or you can serve the creator in the heaven and the earth. And that's basically the way forward.
Right. Okay.
Babylon.
Okay. David, back to you.
BT, you're welcome. If you want to perhaps say something.
Marius, can you just put your mic on mute again? That's great. Okay, carry on, BT.
Yes, for those Boervolk members that are going to do the emancipation, remember, no one can stop you from exercising your sovereignty. It's even written into the RSA Incorporated Act, into the Foreign States Immunities Act. And you can't claim sovereignty. Sovereignty only comes from actively participating in your sovereignty. This is not for spectators. We need actively involved people, and a lot of this is new to the people, so it would be good for you to go and inform and educate yourself. Even if it's just an hour a day, go and read the pages on the Boervolk website. Read the founding documents. Remember, when you emancipate, you are now abiding by the Tsar common law. And simply put, the common law is the moral sentiment of the Boervolk. So the common law will be developed as rulings are made in your common law courts from case to case. And we will not be applying retributive justice, a system of punishment that was meted out on the slave ships of the Admiralty, but we will be applying restorative justice. So it'll be good to start educating yourself and informing yourself, because, as Thomas Jefferson said, educate and inform the whole mass of society, because they are the only sure alliance of our liberties. And this applies to everybody across the world. So we'll support you in your journey forward. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, BT. And I just want to give a shout out to Greg Adams in the side chat. He's got a broken collarbone and he's having a bit of a rough time. And just to know that the Loving Life family's thoughts and prayers are with him. Back to you, David.
Yeah, just in closing, thank you, Scott. I'd just like to reiterate what I mentioned on our last show, and that is that our enemy's main weapon against us at the moment is food. He's going to use food to subjugate us, hence in destroying the environment, poisoning us strategically. And, if we don't manage this opportunity, if this isn't a success, many, many millions of people are going to disappear with the Boervolk. As I mentioned, our food goes as far as Nigeria. We are strong enough as a continent to cut ourselves off from the rest of the world if we can all come together and realize that we all have a common enemy, that we realize what his strategy has been, that we aren't enemies of one another. He has played us off against one another. And just like us reaching out to our brothers overseas and all over the world, we reach out to every tribe of Africa to say, stand behind the Boervolk, support us, follow our feet clear, and with love, with everyone, we will win. Jan?
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Scott, to be on your show. May I say, let us be together and stay together. The wooded heads of wisdom rear to strike ourselves, and all who steer a course that cries against the way. No man may swerve, no man may stay. We were oppressed and bounded century after century. We became more alone, since first we moved out of stone, but less bounded by the earth, less bounded by mankind. We were forced to drive forever, to create a clearer image of our existence out of the darkening voice of the future. Let it be for tomorrow and the day after that we be the creators of the light that came to us in this century of oppression. And let us free ourselves. Doesn't matter to which race you belong, to which you belong. As long as you know we've been slaves for these international fat cats, and we don't want to be it anymore. We will stand together and break their strength and be ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. Now, Jan, would you like to wrap up the live stream with a prayer in Afrikaans, please? Or in Boer?
That's a difficult one. You ask me. I'm not a priest. I'm just a normal man, and I have no knowledge about what they call belief or religion. All I can say, our religion is based as far as I can, as my investigations go, into what we can call nature. If we love nature and we became part of nature, that's my prayer. Then all of we will come in tune with nature, and we will vibrate our natural vibration, and we will be in the same vibration as nature. And let us be those people who have come in the century of darkness to bring the light of truth and the gift of truth to each and every one. Let us be what we must be, for what we are created. And let's think that nature is our mother, and Father Time is also our father, and time is running out. Time isn't there forever, not for us, but for our descendants to enjoy a life on this earth. We are responsible for it. Let us be together and vibrate together the eternal vibration of this earth and stay alive. Amen.
Amen. Well, I would just add to that I would pray that people around the world get their freedom and become free burghers and get their emancipation, because right now we live in a very, very troubled time where those who have basically enslaved us into these corporations are trying to bring out a one world government where if we think slavery is bad now, you see nothing yet. So, you know, what you guys are doing is fantastic, because setting yourselves free, it's like putting a stick through the spokes of a tire on a bicycle, because the bicycle is going to stop in its, dead in its tracks. Because if more people can emancipate and break away from this tyranny. That's the only way forward for free people.
Yes, and I just want to thank you and ask you a little favor again for my own people in my own town. The purpose of their life, as in one of the oracles given to us by Godfrey, where he said, gestalte van my volk, klein windgerukte westerloot, wat in die suide stand kom stoot, jy bereid 'n boom wat vrugte dra, oor breër grond as Afrika. Wondjare van jou wordenpyn, die dieper geelhout van jou grein, boom wat deur kennis bot, na hoër reënstreke van God. Jou takke op bewussyn strek, boom wat weer ewig verwek. In die seisoene van die hart, uitkruid oor die kringloop van die smart, waarmee die sonde val die moeite, tot moeitevolle morgens grens. Boom wat deur lyding teruggesloei, die suiwer boom van liefde vloei. 4 streke van die aarde vind, om volkere bond in God te vind. En later eeuwe, later tyd, sal jou gestalte wêreldwyd in alle tale wortel vind. Legende groei van die bewind van 1000 jaar, wat eenmaal was, toe God verskyn het in die gras, klein windgerukte westerloot, wat in die suide stand kom stoot. Jy breid 'n boom wat vrugte dra, oor breër grond as Afrika. Now, out of this oracle, we can see what is our task, and we have begin our task. And I hope and I beg everyone to stand together in this determination to fulfill our part in this oracle that was coming to us as a gift, and let a gift be fulfilled by us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jan. All right, I just want to thank our guests. First of all, David van der Berg, who has been my main contact for this live stream. I want to thank BT, or Brother Thomas, for joining us tonight. Marius Rus, who we know well on this channel. He's been on a few live streams in the past, and he's doing amazing work with young people in training them to be independent. And of course, Jan, who unfortunately didn't have the Zoom side going, but we can certainly hear him well through the WhatsApp. And I want to thank all my guests for joining us tonight, and congratulations on your emancipation of the Boervolk. We'll follow this with interest, and we're 100% behind what you guys are doing, because it's way gone beyond the time that people need to wake up as to what is actually happening behind the scenes.
Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you for waking up many people with your program. And I'd like to thank Brother Thomas, take this opportunity to thank Brother Thomas with SA General Assembly for what they've done, for what he's done for the Boervolk. Thank you, and thank you both. Thank you from the bottom of our heart. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
And I just want to say to the moderators in the side chat, thank you for keeping an eye on things. I know we had a couple of trolls in here earlier, and it's always good to have people who can just take control of the situation and keep the side chat clean. And for those of you who've joined us tonight, I hope that you've enjoyed the discussion. If you want to contact David or any members of the leadership of the Boervolk, just go to the website link which you'll find below this video, and there you'll be able to contact them. And if you'd like to become part of the movement to be emancipated, please do so, because it's the only way forward for people. All right, I'm going to wrap up this live stream. I'll keep the side chat open for a few minutes so people can just say their goodbyes to each other. And don't forget, most nights at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time, we have live streams and we discuss a wide variety of topics. And, you know, I've found tonight's particularly important and memorable because it is such a special occasion. And I want to thank David for letting us be part of that.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for accommodating us and making this special day in history possible. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, guys, have a good evening, and I hope to see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Johannesburg time. Bye for now.
Marvelous. Cheerio, Scott. Also.
Cheers, guys.
Cheerio.